You've got to decide what your stand is going to be in life. And once you set it, it's non-negotiable. That means no matter what's going on around you, no matter who's in your circle, it don't matter what opportunities come your way that seem good enough, you don't drop that standard. The problem with most people is they start with a dream. They start with high expectations. But the moment life pushes back, they lower the bar. They say, well, maybe I was asking for too much. Maybe I should just take what I can get. And that's the moment they stop chasing greatness. That's the moment they start living someone else's version of life. But when you decide never to settle, you're saying, now this is the level I'm operating at. And if the situation doesn't match, I'm not moving the bar down. I'm going to move myself up. The thing about standards is they protect you from mediocrity. If you're standing for your health is high, you won't just eat anything or skip workouts because you're tired. If you're standing for your work ethic is high, you won't turn in sloppy work or cut corners just because no one's watching. And if your standard for your life is high, you won't let comfort zones keep you locked in place. The reason people settle is because they confuse comfort with happiness. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it robs you of your potential. Happiness comes from growth, from progress, from becoming more than you were yesterday. And you can't get that if you keep lowering your standard to match where you are instead of stretching to where you want to be. When you lock in on a non-negotiable standard, you start to attract opportunities that match it. Start to see yourself differently, walk differently, talk differently, talk differently. You carry yourself like someone who knows what they're worth. And when you know your worth, you don't waste time on things that don't meet that value. Think about it. When a championship team steps on the court, they don't play down to the competition's level. They play their game at their pace, at their standard, and they make the other team rise to meet them. That's how you gotta live. If your standard is excellence, you don't drop the average just because average is easy. Now here's the catch. Keeping your standard high means you're going to be uncomfortable. It means people might call you a too much or a too serious. It means you might have to walk away from situations that almost what you want, but not quite there. And that's where most people give in. They say it's close enough, but close enough is still short of your vision. If you settle for almost, you're telling yourself you don't believe you can get all the way there. You ain't got to train your mind to see almost as the enemy, not as progress. Your standard becomes your compass. It tells you which opportunity to take and which to pass on. It tells you when to keep grinding and when to pivot. But here's the thing. A standard isn't a wish. It's backed up by work. You can't have a high standard for success and a low standard for effort. If your standard says, I want to be the best, then your effort, your discipline, your focus has to match that. You can't expect championship results with a casual approach. Every decision, every habit, every choice has to align with the standard you set. Think about the people you admire. The ones you look at and say, they're great. None of them got there by accident. They decided what their standard was going to be, and they refused to bend it for anyone or anything. That's why they stand out. While everyone else was compromising, they were reinforcing their commitment. While everyone else was chasing the good enough, they were chasing excellence. And eventually, the gap between them and everybody else became so wide that people called it talent. But it wasn't just talent. It was standards. This is the mindset shift you need. Stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what do I demand of myself? When you live by demands, not desires, you eliminate excuses. Desires are optional, but demands are mandatory. And when your standards become mandatory, you no longer need motivation to act. It becomes who you are. If I expand keynote 2 next, I can keep building this a never settle speech in the same style, so it all flows together like one powerful talk. There's going to come a point in your journey where you feel like you've hit a wall. At first, you're moving fast. The progress is visible, the wins are coming, and the excitement is high. But then one day you wake up and it feels like nothing's changing. You're putting in the same effort, but the results aren't showing up. That's the plateau. And here's what you got to understand. The plateau isn't the end, it's the test. It's the moment where life is asking, how bad do you really want this? Most people quit here because they mistake the plateau for a dead end. They think they've reached their limit. But the truth is that ceiling you feel isn't permanent. It's a barrier designed to see if you're willing to push through. When you hit that plateau, everything in you will be tempted to settle. Your mind will start negotiating. Or maybe this is far enough. Maybe I should be satisfied with what I've achieved. That's the danger zone. That's when you got to remind yourself why you started in the first place. In the first place, you didn't start to go halfway. You didn't start to stop at it good. You started to reach the top, to see how far you could go, to live at your highest level. And you can't get there if you quit the first sign of resistance. The plateau is where champions are made because most people will take the exit ramp, and the few who keep going will separate themselves from the path. Think about it like climbing a mountain. The air gets thinner, the climb gets harder, and you can't see the peak yet. That's when your body wants to turn around. But if you stop climbing, you'll never know how close you were. You could be 5 steps away from the breakthrough and never find out because you quit. That's what the plateau does. It hides the reward just far enough to see who's willing to endure the discomfort to reach it. If you can push past that point, you're going to unlock a version of yourself you've never met before. That's where you find strength you didn't know you had, creativity you didn't think was in you, and resilience that changes the way you see challenges for the rest of your life. Pushing past the plateau requires you to change how you approach the work. You can't keep doing the exact same thing and expect different results. This is the moment where you dig deeper, adjust your strategy, and stay committed even when there's no immediate payoff. This is where discipline beats motivation. Motivation will get you started, but discipline will keep you moving when it's boring, when it's slow, when it's frustrating. Discipline is saying, I don't feel like it, but I'm doing it anyway, because my goals don't care about my feelings. Another thing you got to understand is that the plateau is not a punishment. It's preparation. It's preparing you for the weight of the success you're chasing. If you can't handle the frustration of slow progress, how will you handle the pressure when you're operating at the highest level? Every repetition you put in during this phase is building muscle, not just physical muscle, but mental and emotional muscle. And that's the kind of strength you need to sustain greatness. When you push past the plateau, you also build a new level of self-respect. You prove to yourself that you're not the kind of person who stops when it gets hard. You start to see yourself differently because you've gone through something most people can't endure. And once you know you can survive that, you become unstoppable. You carry that into every area of life, relationships, work, personal growth, because you know you got the grit to stick it out until you win. But here's the part that will really test you. Pushing past the plateau isn't just about working hard, it's about believing deeper. It's about believing deeper. You've got to believe in a vision even when you can't see the results yet. You got to trust that the seeds you're planting are growing under the surface, even when the soil looks dry. That belief will keep you moving when logic says, stop. That belief will make you take one more step and then one more until suddenly you look up and realize you've broken through. Most people will never know what's on the other side of the plateau because they choose comfort over persistence. But the few who keep going, who refuse to settle, discover that the breakthrough isn't just about the goal. It's about the person you become in the process. And that person is capable of achieving things that old you could only dream of. If you want, I can move straight into expanding keynote 3 so the momentum of this never settle speech stays unbroken. Every single day you wake up, you're given a choice. Stay the same or grow. And here's the truth. The moment you stop growing, you start dying. There is no middle ground. Life is always moving, always shifting. And if you're not getting better, you're getting left behind. Never settling means you're not satisfied with who you were yesterday, no matter how good that version was. You respect your past. You're grateful for your progress, but you refuse to let it be your peak. Growth has to be a daily requirement, not a once-in-a-while effort. The problem is, most people only grow when life forces them to. They wait for pain, failure, or loss before they start leveling up. But that's reactive growth. And if you want to live at the highest level, you got to grow on purpose. That means making the decision every day to feed your mind, sharpen your skills, and challenge your comfort zones. It's about being intentional with your time, your energy, and your focus. You don't just wake up hoping you'll get better. You plan for it, you work for it, you demand it from yourself. Oh, you gotta live with the mindset, I owe me. Nobody else is responsible for your development. Not your boss, not your friend, not your fan. If you're not getting better, it's on you. You gotta stop waiting for permission to improve. Stop waiting for the perfect course, the right mentor, or the ideal moment. The ideal moment is today. Growth is not an event, it's a lifestyle. You read that book, you watch that training, you take that class, you have that hard conversation, you face that fear. And you do it consistently, because consistency compounds. Here's the thing, growth doesn't always feel good in the moment. It's uncomfortable, it's messy, it's humbling. You're going to have to admit you don't know as much as you thought. You're going to have to try things you might fail at. You're going to have to let go of habits and mindsets that feel safe but are holding you back. But if you want to be great, you've got to trade temporary comfort for long-term transformation. The pain of growth is nothing compared to the pain of regret. Demanding growth daily also means you can't let yesterday's success make you lazy. You can't let a win turn into a rest stop. One of the most dangerous traps is thinking you've arrived. The moment you think you've made it, you stop doing the things that got you there. That's why you see people rise fast and then disappear just as quickly. They stop growing. The best in the world never stop learning, never stop improving, even when they're on top. They act like they're still chasing. You've also got to surround yourself with people who challenge you. If you're always the smartest, strongest, or most motivated person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Growth happens when you're around people who force you to level up, who won't let you get comfortable, who call you out when you're slipping. And if you can't find those people, then you've got to become your own accountability. Set goals so high they scare you. Measure your progress. Hold yourself to a higher standard than anyone else ever will. Daily growth is about more than just skill. It's about character. It's about becoming more disciplined, more focused, more resilient. It's about developing patience when you want instant results. It's about learning humility when you start seeing success. It's about mastering your emotions so you can keep your vision clear no matter what's happening around you. The more you grow on the inside, the more you can handle on the outside. And let's be real. This isn't about being busy. It's about being intentional. You can fill your days with work and still not grow if you're not pushing yourself in the right ways. Every day, ask yourself, what am I learning? What am I improving? How am I better than I was yesterday? If you can't answer that, then you're just moving, not progressing. And movement without progress is wasted energy. Never settling means never letting a day go by without doing something to invest in your future self. Because here's the truth. The version of you that can achieve your biggest goals doesn't exist yet. You have to build that person, one decision, one action, one day at a time. Growth is the construction site where your future is being built, and every day you skip is a day you delay your destiny. If you want, I can take Keynote 4 next and expand it into 800 to 800 words so the speech keeps building intensity. You got to understand something. You can't have a championship life with a participation trophy work ethic. Everybody wants to dream, but very few are willing to pay the price it demands. Sacrifice isn't a suggestion, it's the entry fee, and the bigger the vision, the higher the cost. You can't expect to live like everyone else and somehow end up with results that nobody else has. The truth is, you're going to have to give up things that feel good now for the things that will feel great later. That's what separates the people who talk about their dreams from the people who actually live them. When you refuse to settle, you accept that you can't keep every comfort in your life. You can't cling to every distraction, every habit, every convenience, and still expect to hit your fullest potential. You might have to sacrifice sleep to put in extra hours. You might have to sacrifice weekends to study, train, or build your craft. You might have to sacrifice social time to work on yourself when everyone else is out having fun. And it's not going to be easy. You're going to feel the pull to go back to comfort. But every time you choose sacrifice over ease, you're making a down payment on your future. Most people want the reward without the grind. They want the applause without the lonely hours. They want the result without the resistance. But life doesn't work like that. Sacrifice is the proof that you believe in your dream. It's saying, I'm willing to give up something I love for something I love more. That's how you know you're serious. When you're ready to exchange temporary pleasure for permanent purpose. If you're not willing to let go of the small things holding you back, you'll never reach the big things calling you forward. Sacrifice isn't just about time and energy, it's about mindset. You gotta be willing to let go of old beliefs, old fears, and old versions of yourself. You can't take the next step while holding on to the weight of who you used to be. Some people never reach their goals because they refuse to sacrifice their ego. They won't admit they need help. They won't admit they have to start over. And they won't admit they're not yet who they need to be. But if you're truly committed to your vision, you'll put that pride aside and do whatever it takes to grow. There's also the sacrifice of comfort zones. Growth and comfort cannot live in the same space. If you want to grow, you've got to be willing to feel awkward, to be bad at something new, to fail publicly, and to face situations where you don't have all the answers. That's the kind of sacrifice most people won't make because they're addicted to looking like they have it all together. But the ones who win are the ones who are willing to look foolish while they're learning because they know the payoff will be worth it. Sacrifice will test your patience. You might give up something now and not see the return for months, even years. That's where most people quit. They think the sacrifice isn't working. But you gotta trust that the seeds you're planting today will grow in their own time. Every sacrifice is a seed, and the harvest will come if you keep watering it with consistency and faith. The people you admire didn't get where they are overnight. They went through seasons of giving up things they wanted now for the life they wanted most. Sometimes sacrifice will mean walking away from people who don't support where you're going. It doesn't mean you stop loving them, but you can't let them distract you from your path. You can't carry everyone with you if they're not willing to walk at the same pace. This is one of the hardest sacrifices you'll ever make, letting go of relationships that are comfortable but not aligned with your vision. But if they truly care for you, they'll understand. And if they don't, it's proof they were never meant to be part of your next chapter. The beauty of sacrifice is that it compounds. One disciplined choice leads to another. One sacrifice makes the next one easier. Over time, you start to realize that the things you gave up weren't losses. They were trades. You traded something small for something great. You traded short-term satisfaction for long-term fulfillment. You traded a life of settling for a life of significance. If you want the kind of life most people only dream about, you got to be willing to do the things most people won't. And 9 times out of 10, that means sacrifice. It's not glamorous. It's not easy, but it's necessary. And when you finally get there, when you finally see the life you built through all those choices, you'll know every late night, every early morning, every hard decision was worth it. I can now expand Keynote 5 into 800 words, so your never settled speech reaches its most powerful finish. Life doesn't reward the ones who start fast. It rewards the ones who finish strong. You can have the best start in the world, but if you don't have the endurance to see it through, all the energy means nothing. Never settling means you don't slow down just because you're ahead, and you don't quit just because it's hard. You play until the whistle blows, until the clock hits 0, until the job is done, and then you give a little more. Most people treat effort like a switch they can turn on and off. They push hard when they feel motivated, then coast when they're tired. But greatness lives in the extra rep, the extra mile, the extra hour you put in when everyone else is backing up. The truth is, finishing strong isn't about how you feel in the moment. It's about the commitment you made from the start. Anyone can give their best when they're fresh, but the greats give their best when they're exhausted, when their back is against the wall, when it feels like they've got nothing left. That's where your true character shows up. That's where your grit, your heart, your willpower take over. You don't slow down at the end. You accelerate. You cross that finish line knowing you left every ounce of effort on the field. Too many people get comfortable halfway through the race. They look at the scoreboard, see they're doing well, and start coasting. Or they see they're behind and decide it's too late to win. But momentum can shift in an instant, for or against you. The final moments decide everything. And if you've been building your endurance, you'll have what it takes to finish at full speed. Never settling means refusing to let your last impression be weak. It means refusing to give less than your best just because the end is near. You've got to approach every goal like a marathon, not a sprint. Sprints are about bursts of effort. Marathons are about sustained focus. In a marathon, the first few miles don't define. It's the last few miles where people break. That's when the pain kicks in, when your mind starts telling you to stop, when you got to dig into reserves you didn't even know you had. And if you can keep moving forward in that moment, you've already separated yourself from most people. Playing until the whistle blows also means you don't stop just because you've reached one goal. You reset, you refocus, and you aim higher. Champions don't retire after one win. They build dynasties. They're not satisfied with one trophy. They want to dominate for years. And that's the mindset you need if you're going to live without settling. Once you've accomplished something, you celebrate, yes, but then you get back to work. You look for the next challenge, the next mountain, the next level. And sometimes finishing strong means pushing through situations where there's no audience, no applause, no recognition. It's easy to perform when the lights are on and people are watching. But can you bring that same energy when nobody sees it? Can you do the work when there's no praise coming your way? That's what separates those who achieve lasting success from those who burn out. The whistleblowing isn't always public. Sometimes it's just between you and your own conscience. Here's another truth. You will face setbacks in the final stretch. Sometimes the end of the race is the hardest part because fatigue is high, pressure is high, and mistakes are easier to make. This is when discipline matters more than talent. Talent might have gotten you here, but discipline will carry you across the finish line. Discipline will remind you that you come too far to give anything less than everything you got. Playing until the whistle blows also builds something deeper than achievement. It builds self-respect. There's a certain pride in knowing you didn't stop early. You didn't cheat the process. You didn't give up when it got tough. That pride will follow you into every other area of life. When you finish strong here, you start finishing strong everywhere. In your relationships, in your health, in your work. It becomes part of your identity. And make no mistake, the whistleblowing isn't the end of the journey, it's just the end of a chapter. The habits you build by refusing to quit will serve you again and again. You'll start seeing challenges differently because you know you got the endurance to handle them. You won't panic when things get hard because you've been there before and you know how to push through. That's the gift of never settling. You become unshakable. When it's all said and done, the scoreboard won't just reflect the goals you achieved. It'll reflect the battles you fought when no one thought you could win. The times you kept going when others stopped. And the moments you dug deep when everything in you said, quit. That's what it means to play until the whistle blows. You go all in all the way every time.